Hello, everybody, and welcome to Steve Couper's podcast. In this podcast, this is for high achieving professionals who want to build wealth without burning out. In each episode, I invite seasoned investors and industry subject matter experts to pull back the curtain on multifamily real estate, showing how accredited investors can generate passive income, protect capital, and build long term wealth. So, this is no hypes, no gimmicks, it's just proven strategies that help you earn more and work less and live better. I'm your host, Steve Couper. I'm really excited about today's guest. So, Kayla Andrade is a dedicated advocate and landlord consultant and ambassador for Landlord Credit Bureau and Front Lobby in Ontario. She's the founder and president of the Ontario Landlords Watch. And in other words, she is the voice that's there for us, rental housing providers. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, Kayla. I look forward to this discussion. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Thank you so much for inviting me on. I'm excited to be here and connect with your network and provide as much education and details of advocacy and how important that is to our real estate community, especially here in Ontario. I've been a landlord for the last 24 years. Started very young at 18, even pregnant at the same time. I have four children now. We have a fiveplex, a sixplex, two triplexes, a single family home, a duplex. A lot of it has very much grown in the last couple of years. And as of about 15 years ago in July, I became a housing advocate. And I became a housing advocate in Cambridge because of the city bylaw making landlords responsible for their tenants' delinquent utility bills. That has inspired me to not only fight it at the municipal level, try to fight it at the provincial level, but it did come to me with landlords and property managers from all over Ontario asking me to help them fight the Residential and Tenancy Act and the Landlord and Tenant Board. So I created a Facebook group on Facebook trying to really bring everybody together as I meet them through podcasts, through events, through obviously council meetings, telling everybody to come into this group so we can keep everybody informed of what's happening and what that call to action is, because we are going to have power in numbers. And that's what I've been doing for the last 15 years, is bringing everybody together so we are becoming a stronger voice. So when we do have different bylaws and policies and bills that are coming down the pipe, which there's a lot of them lately, we're being able to inform everybody and give them the proper tools that they need to voice their concerns with their elected officials, and of course the city or provincial or even federal staff.
Wow, that's such a lot that you've got there, and I mean, there's so
Long
many
time.
questions. There's so many questions that are going to come out of this. But the first one that occurs to me is: were you surprised that there were no other voices out there representing the housing providers? I mean, it seems to me almost imbalanced. You're the Joan of Arc in our world here.
You know what? I think I became like the second group on Facebook. The other one was really just like kind of teaching people like what to do, how to do it. I was more like, hey, this is the rules, this is the regulations. I don't like this. I don't think it's fair. This is why we should be talking about it, and let's get everybody's opinion on it so that we can make a recommendation to our elected officials. We've had many different groups over the years now come onto Facebook. And sadly, we see them diving into more like, how can we make a business out of this? Or what product can I create to sell to this group of people? I've always stayed very firm on the fact that this is a group of Ontario Landlords Watch to advocate, to understand what's happening and how to come together as landlords and property managers and even the realtors and the paralegals. Like, we're bringing everybody that works in this industry together so that we can say we're supporting each other, but we're also now saying, okay, enough's enough. We got to get our elected officials, because I want our elected officials to see, yes, we have a lot of tenants, but the landlords do have a lot of people behind them as well. You know, they're contractors, they're accountants, anyone that's working with the landlords, their votes too. And that's why our voice should be heard.
Definitely should. I mean, I think about the challenges that the landlord faces. You're effectively between the hammer and the anvil in so many ways, where expenses can increase for your insurance costs, your utility costs, and others. But we're frozen at the top on what we can do through government intervention, and squeezed with the rights of the tenant adequately represented on one side, but it's really an imbalanced equation when we look at who's representing the housing provider. And it almost feels like we're without a voice until I met you. And so, once again, ever so grateful. But I mean, I'm interested in your perspective on that. Am I wrong in that assumption?
No, no, you know what? I think there's You always want to say I'm the voice, but I like to tell people that I'm creating multiple voices. So I want to teach you so that the next podcast guest that you're on, I want you to start saying the same things that I'm saying because I think it's going to be key into getting that strength. Is to making multiple voices. We have different landlords associations. We have big ones and federal ones and provincial ones. And are they really looking out for the small landlords or really saying the exact wording and then the messaging that we want our elected officials to hear? Not so much, right? So this is why I take great pride in speaking to as many landlords as I possibly can, obviously through channels like this, but on the phone by messaging, because I think it's going to really impact our industry. And I think it has. And I think that's what we're feeling now is our landlords getting educated, not just through the rules and regulations that they have to follow and how to become a very successful landlord, but to understand what their government is doing to them and how it's impacting their business.
Right. Hey, let's dive back into what your introduction opened my eyes to. You started this at 18, is that correct?
Yeah, teens. Always, hey man, when you got my property, it's a fiveplex. We had a semi, we sold the semi and bought the fiveplex, and all individually metered, gas, water, and hydro, two-bedroom units. Did some renovations to it, and then the city just comes around and saying, "Hey, you're going to be responsible for your tenants' delinquent utility bills." And I was like, "Whoa, like nah, like." All this has to go into like what my husband was born and raised to be like a landlord. His whole family is landlords. I come from the family of tenants.
Ah,
So, coming into this at 18, going, we could buy a house. Like, are you crazy? Like, we're gonna buy a house? Like, that's crazy. Like, how are we doing this? Are we like robbing it? No, no. We were legitly down payment, going through the roles of like signing the paperwork, and it was eye-opening. And you kind of want that for the next generation, but because of government involvement, it can't happen as easy as it is for the next generation. So we're ready to sit there and tell our elected officials this is what it's all about. This is why we're trying to, bring this education to them so they can give people the chance of home ownership. Because as of right now, it does seem like we're going to have more renters than we are homeowners, which really sucks. But sometimes it's not a bad thing either. Sometimes it actually is, it's saving you some money being a tenant in Ontario.
there's truth to this. I mean, I've heard it several times that we're becoming a nation of renters more and more so, and I agree with that assessment. If I think back on times when I was renting, actually, it was nice to not have all of those repairs and issues that I was dealing with.
Mm.
But at the same time, I really missed the freedom to be able to do what I wanted, right? So it's got to be a trade-off, and it must be a really interesting challenge for folks these days. Investment into real estate has actually grown through the years. You and your husband have now got, did you mention 5 properties, I believe? So,
Let's count. I think I
okay,
like 18 doors.
there you go. So, I mean, that's become a full-time job as well, right? You got 4 or 5 children, and you got all of these properties, and you're the advocate, the voice for all of us. You must be one of the busiest people in Ontario.
Yeah, my husband, he's now 40, so he just recently retired from the 9 to 5. He was in HVAC. I've been technically retired at the age of 20, being home with the kids. Definitely 4 kids, ranging from 21 down to almost 6. So we got basketball, we have swimming lessons, we have cutting grass, and eventually shoveling snow. It's definitely a hands-on business, so it's always trying to bring that awareness to some landlords. Like you have to be involved. You have to make sure that you're sending out your rent increases, your paperwork is ready to go, and you're getting as educated as much as you can based on not only your rights as the homeowner, but also the rights as a tenant. So I am pretty busy, and then we're speaking with the Ottawa bylaw. I have that on Friday, so we're trying to convince them not to introduce a rent eviction bylaw that they plan to do, just like Hamilton and Toronto. So I'm going to be there speaking with them, trying to educate them on the fact that there is a process at that provincial level, and being a part of different podcasts and events, speaking at events, because I think it intimidates the government a little bit. So I can influence to say, hey, I'm teaching these people to stay away from Ontario at the moment until you change.
Until you change, I like it. There's an article I read recently, one of your posts, and that was looking at somebody who stole some apples and comparing that to some tenant who didn't pay their rent. And why is there a difference? And I love this analogy you put together and the way you articulated it. Tell us the story.
Well, I like to check on my local news all the time. I think it's important to be involved in your municipal community. And I seen this thing where a tenant, or sorry, a tenant, not a tenant getting charged, a lady, she was there, I think she was 39. She stole 39 pounds of apples. So I looked it up on online. It showed about $97 worth of apples, and she now got charged. So now it's obviously in the local news on Cambridge Today. Then it was also on the Waterloo Regional website on Facebook. And I'm like, wow, like we can totally put this information out, letting people know this lady stole $97 worth of apples. But in Ontario, we have tenants stealing 20, 30, 50, even more of unpaid rent in Ontario. And we're literally being told by our government, take a number and stand in line at the landlord and tenant board. And the only thing that landlords can do is report that debt to the credit bureaus through front lobby. That's the only thing that we can be. Now, again, you can try to track them down. You could try to, garnish their wages. And again, do they quit their job? Do they close their bank account? Like, it is going to be kind of tough to enforce some of these orders that you would get. This is why monthly rent reporting to the credit bureaus, it's so important for us as a community to start learning about and adapting it naturally. Like in California, they actually make it mandatory for you to report unpaid rent or any payments for that matter to the credit bureau. So I think we're not that far behind. I know that the federal government talked about it, but again, how many landlords are doing their own credit checks, right? Like a lot of landlords are like, my friend just sent me, hey, I got my very first fake credit check today. I'm like, send it over. 21 pages. Like, I'm like, what? I'm like, what kind of fake credit check is 21 pages? But it was 21 pages because they want to make it look like they covered this and it was clear, and they covered this and it was clear. And you can see the numbers of based on like what her credit score was and her addresses. It didn't line up to the credit check that the landlord did, right? So we're going to see that more and more as the times get tough. And this is how we're, being a social agency for the government with no compensation, right? And I think that's what's happening where the government can't build it, manage it, maintain it, and subsidize it. We see Toronto community housing legitly falling apart just because they need money in order to maintain their rental units. I'm hearing about properties in London that they legitly have to, when they evict a tenant, they have to strip it down to the bones because they poke holes in the walls and they put needles in there. So they have to renovate the entire unit, and that's coming from taxpayers as well, right? So the system is completely broken, especially when you could be charged for stealing apples. But
So
housing
imbalanced, so
is
imbalanced.
it's just gone. It's just gone. Like it's a like what? And everybody's like, it's contractual law. Like this is stealing. I'm like, I get the concept, guys. Like, don't have to really walk me through why that person because it was an orchard. Like now again, if you stole it from a grocery store, is that going to be something? But I literally made a video about stealing $100 worth of gas, and people were like, I worked in a gas station. We're not going to see anyone getting charged with gas. I'm like, we got people charged with apples.
We got apples. How is it
How do
not
you like
grand
them
theft to steal a
apples?
month's rent? There we go. Tell us about Front Lobby.
Yeah, front lobby. I'm the ambassador. I became the ambassador because after Bill 184, which we were a part of a consultation, I sat down with over 200 people that were in the industry, a lot of them government and nonprofit, and I thought they were actually listening to us. Finally, the bill came out. I'm like, this is nothing to protect landlords. Like, I need something to protect landlords. So that's when I end up falling up onto landlord credit bureau and front lobby, and I'm like, I love what you do. I think like it's legit. The founders were like retired RCMP officers for the fraud department. We had a lawyer, on the other side, and I'm like, okay, like I want to make sure you guys are compliant, ready to go. Got the blessing from all the privacy commissioners, and I was growing with them as they were coming to Canada, and obviously they're in the States as well. And I was like, when I come to landlords and letting them know what's happening in their industry and trying to help them navigate through the difficult times, I also want to bring them a solution. I want to make sure that I know that times are tough. I know the government is taking advantage of you as a private landlord in Ontario, but hey, at least we can get a little bit of this justice by allowing you to report the tenant's unpaid rent and unpaid utilities to the credit bureaus on a monthly basis, and also be able to report your good payment history. So
Mhm.
you can actually help your good tenants build their credit so that you can help them be homeowners. So it does protect the good ones, and it also puts that consequences and the accountability in there for the bad ones. And making sure that landlords have that tool, that platform, so they can conduct their own credit check. And I think that's really important because they really don't know where to get it done, and they need it done, but they also need to make it legible. They need to know that it's easy to read and they can understand it. And that's what front lobby credit checks do as well. And it's only $10.99. And your membership, it's $240 for the year. And that covers you for like 20 leases. So you can have 5 people on one lease. You can report on those 5 tenants. It's only going to consider to be one lease. And the platform also allows the community to send out these rent reminder emails. Hey, rent's coming due, right? So you don't have to be that, hey, rent's coming due. Do you know how like unprofessional that looks when you do it? But if you have a system that does it, it looks a lot better. And it also sends out those reminders to the tenants, letting them know how important it is to have their rent paid on time and what the consequences are if it's not. So it sends them that reminder emails, and tenants can get notified that there has been a debt reported, and the tenants have access to that report at all times. You know, a part of my advocacy efforts with our elected officials is also to not like, I don't think they're ever going to incorporate it into the landlord and tenant board, but at least have that tool available on the landlord and tenant board website so more people can become aware of this valuable tool that does protect the good landlords and the good tenants.
Right, right. You mentioned that this is existing in the States as well as in Ontario. Is it expanding across Canada?
Oh, yes, 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 yes. So it's been Canada since 2012,
Okay.
and they're now starting to expand big as well as in the States. The States are obviously a lot nicer for rules and regulations, but there's still those tenants that they seem to try to get away with. And obviously they still need that access to tool, but definitely spreading across Canada.
Maybe this isn't appropriate. Percentage of all of the tenants you're dealing with that are problem tenants, is it 5, 10, 15, 1%? How significant is this, I guess is my point.
I really want to say like potentially like 10. I
Okay.
want to say 10 to 15, but a part of it, it's also about the economy. I think it's about the economy changing. I think it's about the education that's being pushed out to tenants from our elected officials, from the landlord and tenant board, teaching them, hey, you have your rights, right? But again, it comes down to not just non-payment, it's also just tenants who just demand more for less, right? So I think we look at how the tenants are behaving with other tenants, and the landlords have to come in and we have to be the mediators, and we got to be mom and dad. And if we don't do it, then the other tenants can bring the landlord to the landlord and tenant board and saying, hey, my landlord didn't address my issues with my tenant that I just started a fight with. So it's literally babysitting. So you got to put them in a different category than the non-payment or rent people. But we do know that we have quite a bit of people in coming into Canada as well, people who are new to Canada that don't understand the rules and regulations, and they're even starting to take advantage of the
Sure.
system,
Oh,
right? Because they do get that support.
lots of different cultures trying to find themselves under the same roof. I'm sure that brings challenges for everybody. So, I mean, why is this your fight? Why did you choose at the age of 18 to say, I'm going to do this?
You know what? I think I was able to understand that it's my property. You know, it's my property, it's my building, it's the way I bought it. It was individually metered. And then as you're fighting this water billing, you find out there's a rule book that you have to follow. So you're like, what? I have to a duty to accommodate. I have to, do this. You're realizing that there's a lot of information that I didn't know as a new landlord, and I wanted to make sure that other landlords didn't get that surprise that there is rules and regulations. So our government's not out there trying to teach our landlords what to do and how to do it, how to avoid problems. So that's why I decided to jump in and take that role and do whatever I could as a community landlord, and now people will call me the expert or an influencer, and I'm like, I'm just a mom that doesn't want to take no for an answer, and eventually I have to retire, but I'm hoping the kids could take over next, right? So But I do enjoy doing what I do, and I think it's very important to get more people doing what I do.
I really do too. I really appreciate you. So, I think where I'm going with this is so you're based in Ontario. It's very strong in Ontario, but Front Lobby's expanded across the country. Do you campaign across the country? Do you come and speak in the Edmontons, Saskatoons, Vancouvers of the world?
Well, I don't think my husband would approve the travel, so I kind of stay local, but I do like to connect with different influencers and investments groups, especially in Nova Scotia and Alberta, especially Alberta. I think a lot of our landlords are leaving Ontario and moving over to Alberta, but if they are, I want to make sure that I can point them to the right direction because as much as I want to learn as what happens in their rules and regulations so that I can bring it to our people and say, hey, it's happening in Alberta. Can we have it here? I do want to make sure that I'm setting them up with a great community group so we can strengthen us as we travel just by screen, right? And I love to be a part of like any online, but I definitely won't be taking a flight out there unless I'm going to buy something.
Well, there's lots of good opportunities, I can tell you.
Yeah.
So where this then leads, I'm trying to actually see the various provinces all have their own laws, their own rules that we follow. They're rather unique. We've recently seen, I think a year ago, a year and a half ago, we saw New Brunswick change their rules, imposing a bit of rent restrictions, which was not the direction I expected them to go. And I don't know that they're actually recognizing the benefits of a self-regulating market. Instead, imposing government restrictions in places like that, I don't believe serves the voting public in good favor. It certainly doesn't help the industry, and I don't believe in the end of the day it's going to protect the tenants. I actually think it's going to be harmful. How do we convince governments that there is a better way and there's better models and help them understand and educate them, reinforcing what you're already doing, but say, hey, like you mentioned, hey, look at this. This exists over here. Why don't we try this in our province? How do we do that? How do you best lobby for that kind of improvement?
One, if you're in that area, you need to be very familiar who's there, who's your local elected officials, who's your policies advisors at that provincial level, who is your elected officials at the provincial level. Use social media to your advantage. Start following them, start friend requesting them. Also, make sure that you're getting into having a meeting with these people. And when you have the meeting, you're going to have a lot of research done. And if you do a quick Google of where rent control is, how it's good, how it's bad, with AI, we now have the tools at our fingertips to do a lot of the research so that we can identify why rent control is not good for the economy, why it's not good for the tenants in the long run. And this is something that we've looked at in Ontario. When you look at rent control, and they put a cap of 2.5%. This year is 2.1 for 2026. And they wonder why we're seeing rents jump. I was like, well, when landlords can only raise the rent to 2.1% and you finally have a tenant that vacated either through eviction or either they moved in together with another spouse, now we have to reset that rent, not only to predict what the market is going to be able to bear, but it's that's not the most important part. What it is, it's the property taxes, it's the utilities, it's the insurance, it's the landlord licensing, it's the rent eviction bylaws that you have to pay for it. It's all the capital expenditures that you have to do. So you really have to sit back now and give it a good jump in order to better protect yourself going forward, especially if your mortgages is coming due. And it is a lot higher than what it was 5 years ago for many, many people. So they have to make that type of adjustment. So we really want to sit there and say, well, if you were allowing us to rent it based on the proper inflation or based on a different property, because properties have utilities included, they're not included, it's a condo. How do you expect us to run a business when we can't even fluctuate our price to help us meet our demand of that property? Same with grocery items. You can have a little tea on your little bottle of ranch dressing because of the tariffs. Okay, thank you for upping our price. No control, but you're going to control my private business. And I think this is the most highly regulated business that you can think of, no matter where you are in Canada. So we really need to let people understand that you do have a voice, you do have a vote, and using your social media to call out these elected officials is going to be key into making them think twice before they want to come out with a bylaw or a policy that's going to impact not only your business, but your customers. which are your tenants, and of course, the entire province as a whole. Because if you make a policy that is going to impact the ability of the private investors putting supply, that responsibility will fall onto the taxpayers, either through building it, managing it, maintaining, and subsidizing it, and or the cost that it's going to cost taxpayers into managing the homeless crisis.
Yeah. So it's a direct correlation. It really is. I love that.
Gotta love it. It's not funny. I think I'm laughing at it now because I see our government doing what they're doing because we're expecting the same mindset that created the problem to fix it. So I try to come in there like a ball and chain and be like, come on, guys, like invite me to the table.
There's so much there, right? You think about it, the situation we're in with the homelessness the way it is, nobody's actually addressing where the root cause is. They're only looking to try and put a band-aid around it, hide it around the corner, put it in somebody else's backyard, shoo it away, but nobody's addressing root cause properly. And that's one of the things you're an advocate of.
Steve,
I salute you.
I don't know how long you have on your show, but I can tell you right now, I'm going down the rabbit hole, and I'm going down to the rabbit hole of nonprofit organizations getting funding and grants from the federal to the provincial to the municipal. And they're like, these units are coming out at a price of almost $500,000. They're putting EV charging stations. And what? We are in a housing crisis. People are living in their tent encampments. Our shelters are borderline full in the wintertime. Like, and you think spending $500,000 per unit is a good idea? And again, like this is getting the cart before the horse. We have to understand that some people who are living in tent encampments, they don't want shelter. They don't want to go into the motels. They want to be able to live there because they're fearful of something, or the fact that they have mental health, or they're someone who is a criminal.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be watched. They want to be able to run their business within the tent encampment in itself. But now we have a situation where now everyone's trying to keep them in the tent encampments, thinking that, hey, no, we don't want them to be evicted out of that area because of extreme weather. I'm like, it's neglect to leave people in that tent encampment. And again, we're spending money trying to keep people with food and trying to get them with services, wrapping around services. Like, we need more mental health. We need more rehab facilities before you think that you could throw these people into a home and think that they're going to be good, or you think that the landlord who is willing to take a chance is going to be good. So a lot of it comes down to mismanaging of this housing crisis, and anything that they can do to make it look good for media and make it look good to the public eye to say, look at what we're doing. But really, with all the money that's being thrown around here, like $65.5 million just in the region of Waterloo alone is what's being spent on the homeless crisis. And how many salaries? Look at the salaries that we have being spent on organizations. We have people in nonprofit organizations ending up on the sunshine list. What? I don't know. This is why every landlord is probably a very strong customer of the LCBO. We're trying to help you, but we can't help you with this broken system or these nonprofit organizations trying to convince elected officials and staff that the private sector, the for-profit sector, is a problem. We're not the problem. We're an arm. We're an arm to this solution, but we need everybody to show up and stop throwing each other underneath the bus if you really want to deal with the crisis at hand. And at the same time, we're not going to sit here and get rules and regulations changed based on, oh, the poor landlord. We're just going to highlight, if you do this to the landlords, the tenants are going to suffer, and so is the taxpayer.
You know what? It's such a pleasure talking with you on this topic. I cannot tell you enough. I actually think we should just go off the air and yet stay on this call. I want to hear more. But we are getting close to the end of our time. I have a few more questions for you.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned retirement a few times. What does what does success look like to you? Where is that why taking you, and what is that success that's going to allow you to say, okay, I'm done with it. I've succeeded.
I've succeeded. I've already succeeded, and I've been able to do that because of real estate. And I love the fact that I'm not dependent on my job, and I'm not dependent on a government assistance. I'm not dependent on government pensions. And I think that's what probably makes our elected officials nervous, you know. And then this is something that we've always thought is a solution. to our elected officials, like, we need secondary suites, and they have listened. They allow 3 units on a single family zoning. Some are 4, some is now 6. They know that this, but how do you expect people to create these units in the environment of the landlord and tenant board the way it is today?
Mhm.
So that's the part, like, you're on the right track, but you haven't fixed this other part, and that's why it's not going well, because we do want to see the fact that we have normally seniors, they would downsize, and it just doesn't make sense for them to downsize. But what does make sense is if we can convince them with proper programs to get them into a renovated unit in their home and teach them how to be good landlords and understand that they're going to be protected, we're going to be able to see more supply come to the market, and also extra income
Mhm.
for that in particular homeowner, and then they can retire. And I think anyone wants to be able to not be over 65 and having to work, but government doesn't want people to have this type of income, it seems like, because we have bylaws and policies and everything being thrown at us to take away that revenue that we work so hard for.
We sure do. We sure do. Any last words or thoughts you'd like to share?
Don't invest in Ontario. No, I'm joking.
Oh,
It's
come
it's
on.
still good. It's still good. No, it's not. Just be very careful. If you're looking for more information of how you can start advocating either in Ontario and other provinces, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. You can find me on Ontario Landlords Watch members group on Facebook. Also, I have a public page. I'm on TikTok, LinkedIn, of course, Twitter, and I do have a call-in show on the first Thursday of every month. So definitely look me up on Kayla Andrade on Facebook, and follow me if you like this interview.
Marvelous. Thank you ever so much for your time today, Kayla. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.